Have you ever felt not valued, seen, or heard? If that's the case, hang in there because we got a great guest on the show today that's going to walk you through how to feel valued, seen, and heard as a woman of color. Hi, and welcome back to Woman's Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Edna Howard, founder of Voices of Encouragement. It's an organization designed to empower women. And I'm so excited you're joining me for another empowering message because all of third quarter, we are focusing our energy on this show on business. And business means everything across the board, which means if you're operating a business as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, dualpreneur, side hustler, ready to transition, looking to own your own business one day, this show is for you. And I just want to say, as a mindset coach, I specialize in helping women find and claim their personal power. Voices of Encouragement provides a coaching and educational products, training, mentoring, empowerment workshops, and networking events for women all over the world. And so I want you to listen intently today because we have an amazing woman on the show. Her name is Miss Chantelle Fitzgerald, and Chantelle is the founder and CEO of Mindset Strategies. This business was in response to her own personal challenges in the workplace where she found herself undervalued, underappreciated, bullied, overlooked, and unseen. And that can be a struggle in itself. And so Mindset Strategies is a leadership development firm that focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, as well as supporting leaders to create a culture where people feel valued, respected, supported, seen, and heard. And what sets her apart from many other firms is that her approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion, she approaches it with mindfulness and emotional intelligence and looks at it from that lens. Now, Chantelle believes in order to really create a culture of equity and belonging, you must first be present with yourself, recognizing your own thoughts and biases in order to transform them and do less harm to others. And she believes her clients walk away with a profound new perspective, tools to create more psychologically safe environments, and coaching to support ongoing learning. So think of me as your chief encouragement officer, bringing you firsthand expertise and knowledge from an amazing educator, coach, and business owner who's impacting the world around her. Welcome to the show, Chantelle.
Thank you so much for having me. Wow, I really appreciate it. What a beautiful, nice introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're super excited to have you join us today, and we're really looking forward to gleaning some gold nuggets from you and from your expertise and your wisdom that you're going to share with us, and a little bit about who you are. So why don't we jump right on in, and why don't you tell us who you are and what makes you get up in the morning?
Well, gee, let me add more to what you already said. So yeah, no, you described me well in that introduction, but who am I? Yes, I am a Black woman. I am passionate about about leadership development. I am an entrepreneur, and I just want to make leaders better in every way, in any way possible, in every way possible.
Right.
And as you mentioned, doing that through mindfulness and emotional intelligence. And I really believe that mindfulness, how to be present, is truly the foundation to leadership. So I'm really passionate about the work that I do, and grateful for the experiences I've had, terrible ones, and
but they made you who you are.
Yes, and they have made me who I am today. So I am grateful for all of those trials and tribulations, and probably will continue to have trials and and tribulations, which will help sharpen me be a better leader and a better entrepreneur, and a better business owner as well. So yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and who and what has helped shape you to becoming this entrepreneur that you are today?
Yes, I have a diverse background. I mean, my career experience is as diverse as I am. So basically, it could be a long story, but I'm going to try to keep it short and concise. But just to show you the diversity of my background, I actually went to college and graduated with a French degree. I was actually a French
Awesome.
teacher.
Okay.
That tends to be a shocker for most people because
I love it.
that is not a usual major for
Mhm,
most folks. And so I
mhm.
had studied abroad, lived in France, taught French, and
All
realized
right.
I was actually disciplining kids more than I was actually teaching French. And so I
Okay.
ended up transitioning into something very similar, which was pharmaceutical sales. And I ended
Okay.
up working in the corporate sector for
Mm,
years selling cardiovascular medication. So obviously extremely different.
right,
And
right.
so it was a totally different world going from education French teacher to pharmaceutical sales, medical, calling on physicians,
Yes.
and providers and selling cardiovascular medications. And
Right.
so I did that for a number of years and had some tricky situations along the way and ended up getting laid off at the downturn of the economy, and ended up going back to grad school,
Mhm,
where I went to the University of Pennsylvania and got a master's in nonprofit leadership because I wanted
mhm.
to work in the nonprofit sector. So I
Right,
ended
right.
up
Mhm,
transitioning into the nonprofit world, where I worked in that sector for another 7 years, doing
mhm.
various different works, and working for various different nonprofit organizations, from the American Heart Association, working in fundraising and individual giving, to then moving my whole life from Philadelphia to Boston to work in
Wow.
international education.
Right, right.
And so that was a big turning point for me, actually, was leaving Philadelphia to Boston for an
Yeah.
international education organization where I was going to be a manager of a study abroad program. So
Wow.
that was really exciting for me because I had studied
Yeah.
abroad in college and loved the experience. And
Right.
unfortunately, it crashed and burned after a
Mm,
year of
mhm,
being in Boston.
mhm.
The boss that ended up hiring me ended up moving to a different department. We ended up getting a new boss, and that was kind of a nightmare. And he ended
Mm,
up trading in all of the people that worked there for his own, and I got the boot. And that was a
right, right.
devastating moment for me because that had
Yes.
now the second time I
Mhm,
was laid off. And now I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? Because when
right.
I look back at my life at that point, I'm now in my early to mid 30s. I've
Mhm.
worked in, education. I've worked in pharmaceutical sales. I've
Right,
in
right.
nonprofit, international education. And it's like,
Mhm.
what are you, like, you look at my resume, it's like, where are you going? What are you doing?
Those paths, those
Yes.
pits. Yeah.
And so I fell into kind of a depression,
Mhm.
actually,
Yeah.
about where I was going in life. And also at the time I was not married. I didn't have any kids.
Mhm.
Everybody around me was getting married and having kids. And I had to move back home and live with my parents in my
Right,
mid
right, right.
30s, and just feeling like a complete failure in life, actually,
Right, right,
because I
right.
didn't know what I was doing or where I was going. And
Mhm.
so that's what brought me to mindfulness, because I found, I heard so many great things about mindfulness and how
Yes.
it helps you with anxiety and stress,
Mhm. Yes.
and it gives you more clarity. And so I was like, well, what do I have to lose? Because I have so much anxiety. I'm so stressed out. I have no idea what I'm doing with my life or where
Mhm.
I'm going. And so I fell into mindfulness, and it was actually a game changer. And it literally changed my life and the trajectory of where I was going.
Mhm.
And so what I realized is that it was my own mindset that was holding me back. But
Mhm.
also, when I was thinking about leadership and all the places that I have been, it didn't matter where I went, leadership could always be done differently. Managers could learn to be better leaders and have
Right.
better skills. So,
Mhm.
from education to for profit to nonprofit to international education, leaders could be trained better. It didn't matter
Right, right.
when. And so then I ended up getting certified in a program called Search Inside Yourself,
Mhm.
out of Google, actually. And it's a
Mhm.
leadership institute that focuses on mindfulness and emotional
Mhm.
intelligence. And I ended up getting certified in that. And that's really what birthed my passion and love for leadership training, because I had
Mhm,
also
mhm.
experienced some really terrible leaders in the workplace and
Yeah.
felt like people could be trained better. So that's really was, the catalyst to start my business. And then 7 years later, we're still going strong in training
Which
in
is great.
mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and
Yes.
we've evolved as well in terms of having a leadership institute for Black women,
Mhm, mhm.
and connection sessions and all kinds of things.
I
So
love that.
that was
And
a
so
little bit
one
what
of the questions I was going to ask you and pose to you in reference to that was, why don't you tell us, first of all, where did the idea bubble up from to have a leadership institute for Black women? I love that. And I was up on your website and I was like, this is so awesome. So tell us a little bit about that and where that idea came from.
Yeah, well, actually, it was a pivotal moment in our world in terms
Right.
of in 2020 when the whole murder of George Floyd and the racial reckoning in our world, really.
Right.
Um, and it dawned on me also that I was doing a lot of leadership development training to people who did not look like me.
Mm,
And
mhm.
so I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I mean, no, I mean, why am I not doing this for people that look like me?
Right. And
And
helping them
so
be better leaders. Right. Mhm.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And
Right. Right.
also there was and at the time there was great data that came out of McKinsey and Lean
Mhm.
In talking about the state of women in corporate America.
Mhm.
And it really doubled down on Black women in the workplace and how
Mhm.
Black women unfortunately are the worst off in corporate America and just in the workplace in general. And
Mhm.
so when I was reading that research and report, it resonated with me so strongly because I had also experienced
Right.
a lot of the research that they had
Exactly.
talked about. Like
Right.
that
You're
was
like, I was part of the study.
yes, I am them.
Right.
Yes, everything that came out of that
Yes.
study I
Yes.
resonated with because I had experienced that, which is why I started my own business in leadership development training. And then I was
Right.
like,
Right.
why am I not doing this for Black women? And so
Right.
I
Right.
decided to start a leadership institute for Black women
Mhm.
specifically, and target companies that have a DEI goal of wanting to have more women of color in higher level leadership.
I
And
love
I
that.
leverage the data from McKinsey to
Mhm.
show that, C-suite executives, um,
Mhm.
and Black women and the C-suite executives, they're polar opposites in terms of white men being the top and Black
Right.
women like 1.4% in
Right.
C-suite positions.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was also a catalyst for me to create what's called connection sessions
Mhm.
in our Leadership Institute, where we bring in C-suite executives
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
women in our program to break down biases and stereotypes and to really see each other for our common humanity. And
Right.
that has been so eye-opening for both sides, for the C-suite executives as
Mhm.
well as for the women in the program.
Mhm.
And the C-suite executives learn so much. They are much more empathetic to the experiences of Black women.
Right.
They
Right.
are much more motivated to be better sponsors, and they
Mhm.
are activated to go in their organizations and actually look at their policies and procedures to see how they can create a more inclusive and psychologically safe culture for Black women and for all underrepresented communities.
Wow. So how are you identifying the C-suite executives that come and be on that platform for the women that are in the program? Do you go to different organizations and companies and start to look for the right fit, or what happens there? What's the process there?
Yeah. So when I first started, it was leveraging my own personal network of who
Okay,
are the
gotcha.
C-suite executives that I
Right,
know
right.
that might be interested in wanting to do this.
Hmm.
And so when I got a few to say yes, I asked them to ask their friends to bring some
Okay.
people on board. So it
Hmm.
was very grassroots
Right.
in the beginning. And now that we've had some great traction and amazing experiences, A lot of the men and the C-suite executives have reached out, but also we target companies who have that DEI goal. And so when they want to invest in their Black women leaders in their company, we also say, please send us one of your C-suite executives to participate in the connection sessions. So our Leadership Institute for Black Women, even though it sounds like it's only for Black women, it's also for C-suite executives. And we do like a dual leadership training. Yeah, we do a dual leadership training, and the C-suite executives say how they become better leaders because of this program. And the women in this program are much more empowered, much more confident, much more able to go up and show up in their workplace as more of their authentic self, and are empowered to speak up more and to not be shy about what they want and where they want their career to go, and also empowering to them to own their careers and really create a path for them for promotion and where they want to be. So it's also very inspiring and very empowering for the women in the program.
That sounds awesome. So I have a question for you around that, because I just want to take a deeper dive. Is one of the topics imposter syndrome with women in high profile positions where they struggle a lot of times, women of color do?
Yes, absolutely. So we bring in guest speakers. Of course, the foundation of the curriculum is mindfulness and emotional intelligence.
Right. But it's what self-awareness, that's all about self-awareness.
Absolutely. But yes, we do bring in speakers that talk about imposter syndrome and also trauma that Black women have faced in the workplace. And how to, and we also have, unpacking racial trauma and how to deal with that in the workplace, and how do we unpack that in ourselves, because it's so ingrained in us without us maybe even consciously even aware of it. So yes, we definitely talk on the subjects of imposter syndrome, healing from racial trauma in the workplace, to unpacking the angry Black woman stereotype.
Right.
All kinds of things. So the program is very catered towards Black women and what they need.
Wow. So your cohorts, how do you identify cohorts? Are you out there put an application out there and they apply? How does that work?
Yes,
Chantelle?
there is an application for women to apply to the program. We also target companies. So oftentimes when we target a company to invest in their Black women leaders, we ask them to, so once a company has agreed that they will invest in several of their Black women leaders, they identify the women that they want to be in the program. So it's also that, because, and it also helps with retention too, right? So if I'm working for a company and I'm being tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, I see potential in you, I would like you to go into this Leadership Institute. You're feeling like, oh, wow, somebody sees me. They've acknowledged that, they've picked me.
They've seen me, right.
And so, yes, it goes back to being seen, being valued, being heard, being respected.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of how we tend to recruit the women in the program, is by recruiting the companies to say yes, and then finding the women in their organization that they would like to be a part of the program. Now, we would also love to have individuals be a part of this program as well. And we have a link to the application that I can give to you. You can send to your listeners if people are interested as well.
Absolutely. Now, do you work with entrepreneurs, Black women entrepreneurs who are running their own businesses?
I would like to, yes. Yeah. And if Black owned businesses, would like to be a part of our Leadership Institute, that is also, a possibility as well. So yes, we welcome all.
Awesome. That's so good to hear. So, as we get closer to the end of closing the show out, we'd love to have you give your information, share your link and information so folks can get in touch with you.
Sure. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Awesome. So that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that about the Institute. So what do you feel really sets your company apart from many other firms that are out there doing the leadership development training?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. we definitely focus on mindfulness and emotional intelligence. I
Right,
think what really sets us apart is certainly our Leadership Institute for Black women, and
Mhm.
also our connection sessions. So those
Right.
connection sessions with those C-suite executives and the
Mhm.
women in our program, that really sets us apart, because no one is doing that, right? No one is
Right.
bringing C-suite executives and Black women to a Zoom room and having conversations on vulnerability and psychological safety for Black women in
Right.
the workplace, right?
Right.
So we believe that having these conversations, as well as action and committable action items for them to go back into the workplace to practice, and then report back how they're making those changes. And the women are holding the men accountable, and the
I love
C-suite
it.
accountable to their commitments, as
Right.
well as we're holding the women accountable to showing up as more of their authentic selves and not
Mhm.
curling in, and maybe being more introverted, and not
Right.
to speak up and share what they want to say.
So what do we think that is, Chantelle? I mean, I know you've been in corporate America as a Black woman, and have you ever shied back where you felt like you were in a meeting and you knew you had something to say, wanted to raise your hand, speak on a topic or whatever, and you just would kind of shrink back and just wouldn't do it? Have you ever done that, or you've
Absolutely,
experienced that yourself? Yeah,
absolutely.
most Black women I've
Yes.
talked with, or women of color in general, have done that, right? And most of my coaching that I've done over the course of the years is confidence coaching and building self-esteem. And see that it's all tied together. And when you get in an environment where you don't feel valued, seen, or heard, you can easily shrink back. But there's some tools and resources I'm sure you share with your clients to help them come out of that. Because you
Yes.
do it yourself too. So kind of how did you get from where you are to where you were to where you are now, in a space of feeling like you weren't accepted or you couldn't bring your authentic self?
Yes. I mean, honestly, I think this is also sometimes a daily practice.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that you just solve it one time and you're like, oh, whenever you're in a meeting, you are, you
This
are
is where
always
I am.
authentic.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I feel like it's a buildup and you don't
Mhm.
always get it right every single time. And so it's definitely a practice, but small steps can actually
Yes.
make a big difference, right? So if you never speak up in a meeting and one time you share something or just share a comment, that's a baby step,
Right. Right.
in terms of saying something, practicing, within small groups, or
Right.
those types of things. So yes, we definitely, and also I should also say the women in the program all get an executive coach. They also all
Oh,
get
that's
a
good.
360
Yes.
assessment. So not only are they going through this 6-month program, and getting leadership development training and having these connection sessions, they also get to work one-on-one with an executive coach throughout the 6 months of the program. So they
Yes.
get tailored support,
Mhm.
to work on potentially this very specific thing of being able to find the courage to speak up and say your piece.
Right.
And they are learning the tools, working with their coach. And a
Mhm.
lot of the feedback that I get is that they are showing up more and more as their authentic selves and
Right.
feeling more confident to
Mhm.
say something. And they're also getting the feedback from their employer or from their colleagues, like, wow, like you're really stepping up as a leader,
You're doing some
and
things. Yeah.
yeah,
They can see
and
it.
getting
Yeah.
positive reactions from
That's
them
good.
stepping up and
Right.
showing up as leaders,
Mhm.
in that way. And so that's a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
yes, an ongoing practice, but they also have a coach to really support their needs specifically.
I love that. That's so good. So you pretty much nailed it, giving us that feedback. I love that. So what is one piece of advice you can give someone in need of your services? And what are the steps, which steps should they take to reach out to you?
Yeah, I am so open and available. So, I mean, feel free to link in with me and definitely reference this podcast if you've heard it.
Mhm.
And just send me a LinkedIn, request. And Chantelle Fitzgerald. You can also follow us on LinkedIn with Mindset Strategies, or follow us on We have a LinkedIn page for the Leadership Institute for Black Women as well. So you can check all of those out on LinkedIn. My website is mindsetstrategiesllc.com. So you can certainly connect with me there. And then I'll also send you the link for the application for our Leadership Institute. We're recruiting for our next one that starts in September. The deadline to register and to, be on board is August 23rd. So just in a month from now. So we're heavily recruiting for our next cohort. So if you are interested or you're an organization that is interested, please reach out to us. And I can also give you my email as well, but it's just Chantelle.Fitzgerald at mindsetstrategiesllc.com. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And Chantelle, this will also be in the show notes. So if someone's out on YouTube and they're watching, they can click on the show notes underneath of the YouTube and you can find Chantelle's information there as well.
Perfect. Yeah. They can also go to info@mindsetstrategiesllc.com too, if that's helpful.
Yes. All of that, everything we can get so people can reach to you. It's wonderful. So you're a successful business owner, coach, and amazing woman of color. So what's next for Chantelle?
What's next is working on, we're always trying to improve our Leadership Institute for Black Women and all of those things, but we're also trying to move into contracting as well and really working with government and universities as well in their leadership programs. So we are looking to work on more bigger contracts so we can do more leadership development training in the government as well as in university settings as well. So that's really where we're focusing on and kind of what's next for us. And we're really excited because we did just get a contract with a big university doing some executive coaching and leadership. So that's really exciting. So that's kind of where we're going in addition to what we're already doing.
Awesome. I love it. So I'm going to go back to the one piece of advice that you would give someone in the audience who may be struggling right now with issues at work where they don't feel valued, seen, or heard. What would one piece of advice be for them?
Yeah, well, one piece is, first of all, you're not alone.
Right. It's a group. It's a whole tribe.
Yes. Know that you are not alone in your experience. So whatever you're feeling, it is valid and you are not alone. So that is one thing I would want them to know. And also to, maybe identify a friend or somebody on the outside, but also start doing some self-reflection in terms of what do you want and where do you want to go? Because oftentimes when we are in the workplace, we feel stuck. We don't know where we want to go. We don't know what we want to do. We just know we don't want to be here. We don't even know.
But you got to pay the bills, right? So you stay longer than you should because you need to pay the bills, right?
Yes, exactly. So I would also recommend to do a deep dive in self-reflection to figure out what do you want, and what brings you joy and what is interesting to you. It doesn't mean that you're going to do that, but just what's interesting to you. So self-reflecting on that as well, but just know that you're not alone, and then do, I would say, a deep dive in self-reflection in terms of where you want to go, and then put some steps into place to make it happen, to get out of where you are. But first you need to know yourself and where you want to go before you can get to where before you can get there. Right.
Absolutely. You can't go jumping out into something you don't even know yet what you want, because you jump back into the same thing. So you got to figure that out. You really got to take a deep dive. I agree with that. That is good. Great advice. Thank you so much, Chantelle. That's great advice. So Chantelle, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today. I want to thank you for the time you've spent out of your busy schedule, giving us the wisdom and expertise that you have. You truly are an amazing woman, impacting the business world and impacting the world that needs to be impacted in terms of women in color in leadership. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. And that is a wrap, I want to say. And all of the advice that we received. We got these gold nuggets from Chantelle. So I definitely want you all to reach out to her if you need her help, guidance. Check her website out, send her an email, and check her out on LinkedIn. And with that said, if you need to take a deeper dive and get some one-on-one coaching, you can join one of our coaching sessions. VOE offers beyond the workshop ICE coaching service, ICE coaching and consulting services to help those who need to make a mindset shift and transformation. For more information, you can email me at voemetoday@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on our website under voicesoфencouragement.com. And like I always say at the end of every show, until we meet again, Ephesians 4:1, walk worthy of the call for which you were called.